Adulting is hard work. Paying down your debt, building an emergency fund, saving to buy a home, or even investing. Now, trying to do all of that at the same time, it can weigh you down. So how do you plan your financial goals? Hi, Mr. Au.
Hello, Don. Nice to meet you.
Good to meet you.
Yeah, come.
Au Chun Hui, Deputy CEO of GYC Financial Advisory. Thank you so much for agreeing to meet me here today.
Very happy we could be here.
Why is it so important to start that journey when people are young?
Well, I think when you are young, you have several things on your side. Of course, you also don't have a lot of assets and the means to invest. But what you do have is time, and time is very important because you can harness the power of compounding. All right, give you an example. Assuming that you were to set aside $30,000 for your child at birth, and you just left it there and kind of forgot about it, when your child turns 60 years old, he or she would have close to $1 million in assets for retirement. I think the second thing about starting early also is that you actually can pay very low premiums for that insurance as opposed to when you are in your 30s, your 40s, and your 50s.
Chun Hui, we're talking about the internet generation here, but how easy is it for them to actually DIY this financial planning process?
They are financially more aware because there's so much choice of investment options out there, investment advice. Okay, but in terms of financial savviness, probably not as much as their parents would like them to be, because financial savviness kind of implies a certain adeptness, hard-headedness, being sharp, familiarity with the investment climate and how to do investments. There's a certain gravitation towards wanting to do things online and finding information that's available out in the internet space. You know, talking to a financial advisor is not cool, you know. I mean, it's like very old school. It's something my parents did. There's a lot of research and surveys about Gen Zs that have come up in the last 1-2 years or so when they all started their investment journey. And it's interesting to find out that those people who actually DIY'd have a poorer investment outcome than those that approach the typical financial institution.
So what are the steps that one could actually take to do financial planning properly?
I would say it's fairly intuitive. First of all, I think consider their goals, their aspirations, where they want to go, all right? What your attitudes towards money, your value systems and all that. Next, you look at your own financial situation at that point in time, and I can imagine you don't have a lot of finances when you first started. Then you do a gap analysis. Okay, so that's where you are financially and that's where you want to go in terms of achieving your financial goals. And then after that, what you do is then you need to execute, okay? Find a solution to get from point A to point B. And part of it would involve finding a proper, a robust, technically sound investment philosophy and a product that matches that in order to get you to that destination. And then I think the final part is to monitor. You can't just fire and forget because things can go wrong along the way. So what we do for a lot of our clients, including those who are the Gen Zs, is we meet them perhaps at least once a year to track, okay, that's where you are now. Are we on track towards reaching your destination 20 years, 30 years down the line? Yeah. Okay. And if you're not, then there may be certain adjustments that we need to do.
What happens if you start this journey and you've got a bit of debt?
I think everybody is different, right? I mean, even if you do take up a loan for your studies, or even if you wanted to buy a small place of your own, I think all that is good, but you got to check your own financial situation, all right? An important thing I find with handling that is also to never underestimate interest rates. We will try to share with them, dissuade them if necessary, if we find that, actually you don't have that amount of money. And if interest rates were to move a bit, you would be actually in a bit of trouble.
You must have seen some mistakes that they've made along the way.
Part of it is the wants, okay, versus the needs. Typically, it will be like, buying flashy watches or going out on socials, all right, which is very expensive, into Michelin restaurant kind of places, okay, where your paycheck may not match the kind of expenses that you are actually racking up. So these are things that I think manageable in that sense, and that's where, again, good friends, good advice are definitely invaluable.
Okay, so how would you roll back extravagant expectations and once you've tasted a bit of the good life?
One of the ways we do tell them is, it's fine, okay, I mean, you really want to go there, then set a budget for it. For example, tell yourself maybe once a month or twice a month, that's the amount I'm going to spend, and I'll limit it to maybe 1 or 2 visits in a month. So then it becomes a bit manageable, you plan for it. So you, in a sense, you cater to your wants. You don't try to stifle it, because one day it's going to explode and then you're going to go on a spending spree, and that's even worse, right?
For a young person, having a financial kind of planning philosophy is going to be important. What would be your top tip when it comes to navigating that by way of debt and income?
Well, I think all of us know the standard answer to that is minimize your debt, okay, and increase your income. But it's easier said than done, right? Because there are certain things that we can't avoid, like buying property in Singapore. We, in a sense, have to, almost all of us have to take some form of debt in order to afford it, and then we pay off over the years. Of course, you try to increase your income wherever possible, upgrade yourself, do studies, so that you become valuable to the company, okay? Or you find things that will maximize your own potential. So there's always a certain trade-off and a balance, right, between increasing your income and reducing your expenses.
Chun Hui, I know some young people who keep the hong bao that they received beautifully stacked, unopened in drawers at home. It's not exactly the best way to maximize your savings, though, is it?
Time to take it out, because sitting in cash is not going to help you to grow your assets. Of course, depending on your life stage, we want some cash that we can access immediately, get from the ATM, okay, for our daily expenses. But beyond that, once you calculate roughly, every month how much you're going to spend, you can keep aside maybe 6 months or 12 months in liquid cash. The rest of it, you should try to earn a higher rate of return. Okay? And if you are young, remember I said about the power of compounding, you can actually afford to invest that over the long term and put it, and nowadays, interest rates for fixed deposits, money market funds are so good.
How do you fine-tune that process as you get older?
So I think once you have come up with that financial plan, which is your roadmap, and that's golden, right? You got to keep periodically check upon it. If it's properly constructed at the beginning, it's very likely that it would last the distance. But of course, at major life changes and transitions, like when you get married, when you have children, all right, or when something happens to the family, maybe there's a death, or you need to send your children overseas, all right? So that's when you need to have a discussion with, hopefully, your financial advisor, okay? And one of the questions we ask all our clients in every meeting we meet is, what has changed in your life? So we try to get as much information because we are trying to assess the impact on their financial plan. And if we feel that things are cropping up, or we see possible things happening in the horizon, then we want to make changes, and we assess the impact. And we tell the client, okay, we need to do certain changes to your portfolio or to your plan.
If there's one thing that I've learned today, it's that the financial planning journey isn't linear, and you've got to be ready to pivot, to adjust along the way.